Hi everyone, in this video we're gonna dive into Houdini where we're gonna create a mesh for our fire projectile, and also we're going to create this texture that's gonna help us when it comes to world position offset, and so we can actually create a nice wavy pattern on that mesh. So let me show you the mesh. It's just a simple stretch sphere with some UVs on it and a vertex color as well, because both of those gonna help us to achieve that sort of effect. And also let me isolate that fire mesh here in the Niagara system. So as you can see, very simple mesh with that texture. There's some material tricks also, just a noise distortion on that texture to achieve that kind of look. So let's start maybe with Houdini first, and then because those will be very simple graphs, we can dive into Substance later in the same video and create mesh in Houdini and texture in Substance Designer. So now in Houdini, as you can see, I've got this projectile, it's finished. I'm just gonna disable it, get the new geometry, making sure we are starting from scratch. I'm gonna get a sphere, change that to polygon. I'm gonna hover over my viewport and press F just to zoom in. In here, I'm gonna increase the frequency. And next, I would like to scale it up a bit, because right now it just takes a little bit of space, but I think I want it to be around maybe values of 2, because I'm going to stretch it later with the transform. So let's get transform next. In here, I'm going to stretch it maybe to 2.4 or 2.5. And now I want this to be a bit closer to the value of 2, so I'm just going to start increasing here maybe to 1.5. Once that's done, I'm gonna get a taper next. So there'll be linear taper. In here, I'm gonna increase the taper maybe to just slightly to see where this is happening. As you can see, it's happening on the wrong axis. I'm just gonna zero this axis and apply it to x-axis. And also the capture length is doing something weird. So I want my capture to actually happen here at the beginning. So I'm going to put -2 here. And now once I start increasing my taper, you can see I need this to be maybe around a value of 4. So if I'm now just look from the side, that's our projectile. And next, I'm just going to add some UVs to it, which are going to help me applying the texture in the engine and doing a couple modifications in the engine as well, because I need 2 UV channels. I want to give you options. So the first one, let's go with the UV2. So that'll be UV project. Select it, gonna change the UV attribute to UV2 and gonna go to UV viewport so we can preview it. And in here, I'm gonna change this to be a polar projection. And as you can see, I don't have to do anything. Just gonna press initialize. If you see something different here, you can try different planes and see which one works best for you. And once you change the plane, just click initialize. But I think the default option should work for you as well. Also, I kind of don't like that this triangle is sticking a little bit too much, so I'm gonna go to maybe rotation. As you can see, that channel works best, and I'm just gonna offset it slightly, so I can get a slightly maybe better projection here. So this is ideal. However, we are having overlapping UVs at the top and at the bottom. So I'm just gonna keep going until I find something slightly better. Okay, maybe this one axis just a little bit I don't think there should be too much problems if we're gonna play with those ones as well. Okay, I think I'm gonna go with something like this. We're getting like a nice distribution of UVs here, and this actually doesn't bother me too much. If that would be a problem later on in the game engine, I can always come back here and tweak those values. Right, so that's our UV2. Next, I need the side projection, so I can apply various gradients, and that will be just a side projection, just like this one. So I'm actually not gonna do anything to it. Let me preview here. Cool, so that's exactly what I want, and just making sure this is on UV0, which is default UV in Houdini. Right, next I'm gonna apply some vertex color to it, so that will be color gradient. Lapse color gradients is also one of the side effects lab tools. I'm gonna select, as you can see, it's kind of getting a weird axis. I want actually to be on a x-axis like this. And I'm just gonna invert it, so the front or back, it depends how you're gonna put it in the game engine. It's got this gradient, so I can control the vertex color using the power node in the material editor in the game engine. And I can control where I want this to be. And ideally, I want this, for example, if that's our front, I can use it for a glow at the beginning of the projectile, or if that's our back, I can use maybe this for an alpha to get rid of transparency from, actually add transparency here. Okay, and finally I'm just gonna add some normals to it. So normals, I'm gonna put 180, and I'm gonna get another transform, and I'm gonna put 50 here to get the game engine scale. Side effects always recommends 100. I think I'm just gonna go with 50 because I think I just got better scale with 50 rather than 100 when it comes to meshes for the particles. Okay, so I think that's done. I'm just gonna put null at the end. I'm gonna call this export. Let's go back now. So that's our mesh. As you can see, that one's slightly smaller, so maybe actually let's put 100 here. And now they are very close there. I think we could also come back maybe to our taper here and maybe tweak it slightly like this. So play with the squish pivot and squish to get a bit more volume around this area. So I'm gonna hide the original one. As you can see, that one looks very similar or the same. So now we've got the projectile. Let's dive into substance and let's create our wall position offset texture. So that texture is gonna be super simple. I just want to have 3 waves, so I can actually apply it to my UVs and into my mesh. So I'm gonna start with pedaling noise because I wanna isolate the trail. So I'm gonna use cross section to do that. I'm gonna scale down my pedaling noise so I could get something like this, but I want this to be a bit more flat. Okay, could be maybe something like that. For the cross section, I'm gonna check the gradient mirrored, or maybe just a gradient, and I think just the gradient should do. Next, I'm gonna get my transform tools. I'm gonna align it with my UVs in the for my mesh, and then I'm just gonna offset it slightly. So I'm holding shift on my keyboard and just moving this across there. Just make sure it snaps to the edges. You can offset it as well if you want, like that. Okay, so problem I've got with this, I need this to be a bit more flat rather than distributed like this. So let me go to the cross section. I'm gonna reduce the height scale of it. Next, gonna get that transform, rotate it 90 degree like this, and offset it that way to the end. Actually, I'm gonna put maybe 0.7 there and take it slightly back. Okay, something like this. And next, I'm gonna copy the whole graph, and I'm gonna blend those two together. Now I'm gonna change the offset here to be slightly behind it, and in here I'm gonna change the blending node to add. I'm gonna go to cross section, change the coordinate to get slightly different look for this wave pattern. Probably increase the pedaling noise of the disorder of it as well, just to make sure we are getting slightly something slightly different. Okay, and I'm gonna again just duplicate this graph, put it here, and blend it back in to those two. And I'm gonna offset it again to be behind those two. So as you can see, ideally we want to move the that one at the front a bit closer to the edge, like this, and just try to distribute them evenly if you can. Okay, and the last bit, I'm just gonna apply blur to it, and I'm gonna go with the default value. You feel free to experiment with it if you want, but that will be my world position offset texture, which I'm gonna use on that mesh in the game engine. All right, so thank you so much for watching. Very simple tutorial. I just want to give you a small tutorial, or more like a breakdown of it, how this was achieved and how to design those textures and meshes. If you like the Fire Projectile, you can just join one of the tiers on 1mafx.com and continue there with the engine implementation. That's Unity and Unreal Engine, or if you prefer, you can go to Patreon and you can get that tutorial there. Okay, so in the next video we're gonna dive into Substance, and we're gonna create couple textures for that Fire Projectile.